All right, I want to talk about leftovers for a second.
Okay.
Because I kind of have a hot take
Okay.
on leftovers. Maybe it's not that. I'm not into them.
Me either. I don't like them.
At restaurants and stuff, I'm not, when they're like, do you want a box? I'm like, no. Like, if it's not, if I didn't finish eating, unless it's something that's so amazing and maybe I'm full, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to dig. But I very rarely find myself wanting to package it and take it home.
Yeah.
And like, it just doesn't taste the same.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I had chili or something like that, you know, really kind of gets better as it gets older. But I'm just not really, are you a leftovers person at the restaurant? Oh, do you want a box? Can you want to take this, rest of this to go?
Here's my thing, and I'm sure it's like a chef thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I have leftovers, which I don't really like, one, I'm not taking anything fried home. Two, whatever cooking application is applied to the food in which I receive it, I'm going to do the same thing at home.
All right, so I am here with Chef Shenarri Freeman,
Yes.
my new pal. How you doing, girl?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good. So we are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We're at the Honeysuckle Provisions, it's called.
Yep.
I love this place, by the way. This is like a local Philly spot. So you're familiar with Philly. You've been here
Quite
a few times, right? Yeah. And what are you here for today? We're going to a dinner tonight. Tell us a little bit about the dinner.
So I come
that
to
you're
Philly pretty often. Tonight I'm a part of the Down North Pizza Foundation dinner, which we're raising money for awareness of the foundation. Also funds to go out to formerly incarcerated individuals to help them get reacclimated back to society.
That's amazing. I'm so excited. So it's not just you that are part of the dinner. You've got, what, 7 others?
I believe there's like 10 of us, I want to say.
All Black female chefs
Yes.
that are taking, and this is James Beard Foundation is taking part in this as well, right?
James Beard is a partner, and then Open Table is a sponsor of the foundation dinner.
Yeah, so you and 2 other chefs are handling cocktail hour, and then we've got 5 chefs doing a 5-course meal. I'm so excited for that. I am so thrilled. And I was thrilled to come here because I've never been to Philly before. So to be able to like take part in this dinner tonight and also to get a chance to hang with you in a different area, I love. So tell me a little bit about your culinary journey. How long have you been a professional chef?
Ooh, a professional chef.
Right, because you're very young. That's the thing that's so incredible about you. And we'll get into all the things that you've accomplished, but you're still fairly young.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, I guess.
I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah.
I've lived a million lifetimes, but yes, I suppose earthly years. But so yeah, professionally, how long have you been a chef?
Professionally, I would say maybe the last 6 or 7 years, but I've been cooking for about 13 years total, and just doing like different things within the industry, from front of house management, doing like corporate events, from like a PR or event planner perspective. I've done like hosting, serving, bartending, and I've dedicated most of my time to cooking and kind of understanding how restaurants operate, but I've done it from every single position.
I was going to ask them because I feel like, especially as a chef, it's important to understand how the whole operation works. But did you have a formal culinary education as well, like culinary school?
So I would say I started my culinary journey in Washington, D.C., because I lived there for about 9 years. And that whole time I was working in the food and beverage, the hospitality industry. But it wasn't until I got to New York, which is 9 years after I was already in the industry, that I really understood the ins and outs of being a chef, because I went to culinary school. So that's when I got my like technical training. But before that, it was all job experience, working here, a couple years there, a couple years there, and then I went to school.
Do you have an opinion about, because I was reading something recently about culinary school versus the sort of real life experience, and there were a lot of chefs who feel like, listen, it's expensive to go to culinary school. If you're in a place and you're like from the ground up, kind of like you were talking about doing different positions in a restaurant, and have a good sense of, cooking and being able to cook those skills, they were sort of on the fence about whether a culinary education was fully necessary. The debt that you go into, kind of like with college, like we all sort of accrue debt and student loans and things like that. Do you have an opinion about that one way or another?
I would say it depends on what your end goal is. So I definitely got a lot of experience before attending culinary school, kind of learning the ins and outs of the industry, which there's some things you can't learn in culinary school. You just have to be in the moment. You have to be in these rooms. You need mentors. You need real life experiences, one-on-one with customers. You're not going to learn that in culinary school, but if you want to learn the technique and certain skill sets, I would definitely recommend culinary school. But for me, I got lucky. I got a full ride, so I was like, oh, well, we're going to culinary school. Otherwise, I wouldn't have attended. And I can't say I would be in the same position that I am as a chef now without those skill sets, especially cooking vegan, plant-forward cuisine. There's just certain things that I wasn't learning as a self-taught chef. So when I got to culinary school, I learned how to make a lot of things from scratch without the processed market. So I'm not using like Beyond Meat in culinary school or like, fake butter or fake cheeses. We were actually fermenting things, making things from scratch, from seeds, legumes, making kombucha from scratch. So many different things that I don't think I would have learned outside of culinary school. So I do appreciate that aspect of it, but it's not necessarily. If you want to learn how to cook, yes, you can just go in a restaurant, experience, get mentors, but it's not a necessity. It is helpful though. But I think it just depends on the individual and like what you want to do with your career.
And your culinary style seems to lean towards vegan. So your restaurant in New York, Cadence, is vegan soul food. That was your restaurant that I went to with my cousin. It was so good, by the way. And I have to say, as someone who was raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and has like a very deep connection to soul food, it's literally my favorite food. I was a little like, how is this gonna go? But let me tell you, like from the mac and cheese, like everything, greens, all of it was just so good. It was so flavorful too. I feel like there's maybe, a little bit of a fear from people who don't really mess with plant-based or vegan that it doesn't have the flavor that like a richness of that a meat will bring to it. So that's really primarily your focus. Has that always been your cooking style?
I would say when I first started cooking, I wasn't cooking vegan. However, my first job in the industry, I was introduced into vegan and plant-based cooking without any prior knowledge to it. So I actually started cooking vegan food in terms of the industry, but as a self-taught chef, no. I was cooking ribs. Like I lived in Washington, D.C., and I was at Howard, and my aunt used to always bring me up like a rack of ribs every 2 weeks. So
I love that.
I was cooking ribs at home, but at work I would be cooking. I remember like I was making like olive tapenade, like herby vegan cream cheese, like vegan chilies, all sorts of type of things. But I would say I had a pretty good balance to start off. It wasn't until I transitioned myself to like a vegan, plant-forward diet that I really started focusing on vegan, plant-based cooking. And as time went along, as I learned new skill sets and applications to vegetables and fruits, I started craving food that I grew up eating, which was soul food. So that's kind of how Cadence was birthed. I'm like, okay, I know how to cook vegan food. Let me cook my childhood favorites, my family recipes, but let me apply those culinary techniques and advances I had picked up in school to it, and let me do it my own way versus what everyone else is doing. I don't want to use tofu and fake meat, and I don't want to do that. I want to actually cook vegetables. I want to play around with textures, and I also didn't want to compromise on flavor. So that was my whole thing for Cadence. And I would say that mindset is kind of like the core and the base of my cooking, but I'm always open to different things. Like now I'm cooking West African inspired food where one, I have to learn all of these recipes and ingredients and the produce, and but I'm still keeping that same mindset. Like, okay, this is how it's originally made. How can we incorporate different things so that we're not compromising the flavor here. So
Yeah.
I would say texture and flavor is the base of my cooking.
Oh, I like that too. I was trying to think earlier when I was thinking about the meal that I had at Cadence. I also had lasagna,
Yes.
fried lasagna, right? That was bomb.
Thank you.
How did that? That was what really stood out to me. That, and did I have a jambalaya arancini as well?
Yes.
So you've got these very sort of like arancini is like a traditional like Italian dish, right? Lasagna, also Italian, but you kind of have these sort of twists on it. So this is just all sort of sprung from your imagination, because I'm so interested in that process, the creativity behind not just serving a vegan lasagna or a vegan jambalaya, but to actually sort of like give it that texture, that crunch, which I'm obsessed with. My mom always talks about how much I love crunchy food. I'm like, you like fried food.
Right.
Let's be for real.
Just say it.
But just say fried. If you like fried, you like fried.
Right.
But to make that, how did you sort of conceptualize that?
So I would say for the jambalaya, it was more so about, okay, this is something I've had my entire life. I think my mom used to have was it Ben's jambalaya or one of those brands, like the hamburger helper brands, whatever that was. I used to always have that growing up, to the point I didn't really care for rice as an adult. And then the more I studied food, I'm like, oh, like every culture, every cuisine has their own rice. Like I need to get back into the rice game.
Right.
But as I started to travel, started eating out more, trying different concepts in terms of food and learning different food ways, I'm like, oh, well, if arancini is like risotto with cheese or whatever, let me put a rice that I'm more familiar with into it and see how that works.
Yeah.
Same thing for the lasagna. I grew up eating lasagna, very familiar with it, but I wanted to make it one, vegan, because we know there's a lot of cheese, and I know a lot of people have like nut allergies and things like that. So I went with like a pine nut ricotta, hoping that, people with like almond allergies will be okay, cashew allergies, that shows up a lot in vegan cooking. So I'm like, okay.
Cashew cheese is used a lot in vegan cooking.
A lot of cashews, and a lot of people are allergic to them.
Yeah.
So I figured, let's try pine nuts. It's a little bit more gritty, a little bit more texture there as well, and like we kind of make it smoky too. So making a ricotta out of that, and I think my whole thing with the lasagna rolls was I wanted it to be like approachable to the eye and not too messy to eat. Like it can get messy, but I don't want it to start that way. So I figured rolling it and frying it and having like this more condensed dish that then you can kind of get into, it will be more pleasing to the eye. Originally I was doing like a cast iron lasagna, and I'm like, this is cool, but what can we really do to kind of stand out a bit more? So that's how the fried concept came in.
Right, yeah. And I really, like I said, I love the texture. I love the fact that you sort of bite into it. There's that crunch, but there is that sort of creamy familiarity of a lasagna. And I have to say, too, I feel like it's quite a skill to be able to serve vegan cuisine that is appealing to those of us who are not vegan. Because again, I do think there is a bit of like a blockage for some people of what they think vegan food is. If they've had a very sort of plain, unseasoned, not so creative experience. But to be able to do that and have it be like appealing to everybody is such a skill. Is there something involved in that? Is it all about the familiarity of the dishes and the flavor?
I had plating classes. I had like food art classes where you really learn how to build out a dish for when you're looking for like protein, or you're looking for carbs or fats or whatever the case may be. I really understood how to make a dish from scratch, how to incorporate these different components, how to properly plate. I understood the different levels of texture that plays into a dish as well. So I think kind of taking that approach into food, it made me a lot more creative, because I never wanted a dish where it's like everything's soft. I think that's why I struggle with pastry sometimes, because I'm like, I don't want just like a soft piece of cake or just like a soft cupcake. I would want something crunchy on top. I would want like my taste buds or my palate to be pulled this way and that way. Just like a thought. But ultimately I would say being familiar with certain palettes and different flavors is like what's playing into my food. Ultimately, I do owe it all to culinary school. I really do.
Really? Yeah. Where did you go for culinary school?
Institute of Culinary Education. I did the Health Supportive Culinary Arts program, which is a plant-forward program. Outside of, we had one chicken class, one seafood class, and one egg class. Other than that, everything was 100% vegan.
Wow.
And again, everything from scratch. Like, if we needed butter, we had to make it, or we would use coconut oil.
Churning butter, so to speak.
Well, we were making like vegan butter out of like palm oils and things of that nature.
Right.
You know, if we needed cheese, we would have to make it. Ginger, you would have to scrape out the ginger and make your own ginger juice. So everything was from scratch.
That is
no shortcuts.
No shortcuts at all.
We couldn't buy orange juice. You would have to squeeze your oranges. So you really got to understand and appreciate the process for these foods versus just going to the store and buying orange juice. It's like, no, you're going to learn.
I think this is what has been making me fall in love with, learning about culinary arts.
Yeah.
I cook some. I'm not like the world's best cook. I can make a really good steak.
Okay.
I'm getting better at my salmon because I really love a crispy skin, and that's like a delicate balance. I'm still sort of figuring that out. But just what you're talking about in terms of like squeezing the orange juice yourself, like literally making everything from scratch, I just feel like that separates a lot of fine dining, which I'm really interested in exploring, versus casual dining. We love casual dining. Nothing wrong with casual dining, but to elevate it in that way is just, it really is an art.
Yeah.
So do you find yourself sort of in your day-to-day cooking kind of taking that approach, like everything from scratch, from fresh, if you're cooking for friends or anything like that? I mean, I'm not suggesting that you're farming out in the back, but you know what I'm saying? But you're like, I'm going to make it from the bottom up.
I definitely eat like that at home. Like if you'll see my fridge, you see my fridge in my
Tell
pantry.
me about your fridge. Yes, you know what? I love this. Already I'm excited. Tell me about what is in a chef's fridge and pantry?
So my fridge and my pantry is just kind of, I would call it like base condiments to kind of like build out dishes. Like it's really hard for me to buy. I can't buy like salad dressing. I can't buy like a barbecue sauce. I barely want to buy ketchup. So I have a lot of base condiments, and I also don't use like any processed sugars. So the way that I eat at home is the way that I cook in the restaurants, which is as health forward and whole food as possible. So no processed sugars. I have like all natural sugars like agave, date syrup, date sugar, maple crystals, things of that nature. And then in my fridge is, I'm a very low waste type of person.
Yeah.
So when I buy food, I buy it to cook for that day. If friends are over, they got to take the leftovers home. Like I don't really like things sitting in my fridge for too long unless I'm fermenting. But my fridge right now is probably like fruit from the farmer's market. I go to the farmer's market every week. And when I'm cooking for friends, it's like everything's from scratch.
Yeah.
Like they know how I get down. And I think they appreciate it as well. It's like, oh, I didn't know all of this goes into cooking, and like I didn't know you could make this sauce from scratch, or like I never thought of that. So as I'm kind of taking this culinary journey, I'm sharing the knowledge and like the wisdom with other individuals as well, hoping that they're inspired to do the same at home. It's like, hey, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Some things are hard, but I feel like learning the basics can be very helpful.
Absolutely. All right, I want to talk about leftovers for a second.
Okay.
Because I kind of have a hot take
Okay.
on leftovers. Maybe it's not that. I'm not into them.
Me either. I don't like them.
At restaurants and stuff, I'm not, when they're like, do you want a box? I'm like, no. Like if it's not, if I didn't finish eating, unless it's something that's so amazing and maybe I'm full, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to dig. But I very rarely find myself wanting to package it and take it home, and like it just doesn't taste the same. Maybe if I had chili or something like that, really kind of gets better as it gets older. But I'm just not really, are you a leftovers person at the restaurant? Oh, do you want a box? You want to take this, rest of this to go?
Here's my thing, and I'm sure it's like a chef thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I have leftovers, which I don't really like, one, I'm not taking anything fried home. Two, whatever cooking application is applied to the food in which I receive it, I'm going to do the same thing at home. So if I'm taking home a stir fry, I'm going to heat it back up like a stir fry.
The pan of the wok,
I'm very anti-microwave.
You are,
yeah.
Okay, even just for warming, you don't mess with it. Yeah, see, you're a purist.
No, my microwave is almost like storage. Like I don't use it.
I will microwave something with the quick, and I know it's not the way to go, but it's just it's convenience. That's really all. But it's like a big light box. Is really all it is. It's not. It tastes different when you reheat soup on the stovetop than in the microwave.
If I'm not gonna go out of my way to do all of that, then I'm not going to take it home, and it's not going to be a leftover. But I have friends and neighbors, they know I don't do leftovers, so they'll be like, can I take this? Or like, do you have anything? I'm like, yep, take it. Take it all. So
I had some fried chicken recently, and I took it home, and I ate it the rest of it later that evening, but it just wasn't the same, and I just don't feel like it was a great idea.
It's not the same. Fried food is tricky. Like, I like it fresh out the fryer.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go back in time a little bit. Okay. So were you cooking as a child, as a young person?
I was very anti-kitchen. My mom will tell you all the time. Like, I just hated being in the kitchen.
I know she tells that story all the time.
She tells it all the time.
You know when she was little, she hated to cook.
She never wanted to help me. And like, that
and
is
now
very
look
true.
at her. Look at her.
Right. No, I was not cooking as a child. I think when I hit middle school, I started experimenting more. I had like some go-to meals. Funny, we're in Philly. I used to do those. I think they were called like steakums. It was like some flat
steakums, the frozen
steak thing. I used to make those. That's when I thought I was doing something.
Were you trying to make a Philly cheesesteak?
Yeah,
with the
course.
steakums,
the onions. I was doing it all. I was doing ramen noodles, and I would like add in a little hot sauce, little egg and stuff, and then fried bologna or fried hot dog sandwiches. Like those were like my 3 staple meals.
I love I haven't had a fried bologna sandwich in ages, but the way I loved a fried bologna on white bread, white bread.
Yep.
Like literally like Wonder Bread. Yep. It's just, what is it about that combination that's so good?
I think it's like, it just reminds you of home. Yeah. Like as soon as you eat it, I'm just like, like I'm back in Atlanta, I'm back in Virginia, I'm in my mom's house, or like it's summertime. So I think it's that nostalgic feeling. Because I think we as food people that have traveled and, had food all around the world, it's like, how can something so simple be so good? And I think it's that core memory kind of coming back into play.
Yeah, I'm really sort of fascinated with food memories and how much it sort of informs like so much of our lives, you know?
Makes it taste better.
It does make it taste better. So between the ramen and the steakums, at some point you fell in love with the process.
I think I kind of fell into culinary by accident. My first real job was in college. I was at Howard. I was a freshman, and I was actually interested in music. So I interned at this music venue called the 930 Club in DC. And when my internship was done, I was like, I want to work here. Like, I want to work here. Meanwhile, my whole major in college was pre-physical therapy, so I was actually in the health field, but just interested in music. And they're like, we don't have any positions available, but if you want to just work here, you can work in the kitchen. When something's available, you can transfer. So I'm like, okay, I just want my foot in the door. I just want free concert tickets. So I ended up, cooking in that kitchen for 4 years, still getting free concert tickets, but I just really started learning about food. So I'm getting free concert tickets. I'm taking free food home every day as a college student. I'm like, this is the dream.
That's the life right there.
This is the dream. And from that, I just started getting like promotions. I started working at other restaurants within the neighborhood, but it was definitely by accident because I had zero interest cooking. Zero.
Wow. That's incredible. where do you want to see your artistry as a chef go forward? How do you want to see it evolve from here?
I think I'm interested in more of like my global impact on food and what my take can mean just on a wider lens. Like right now I've been visiting West Africa a lot. I plan on kind of branching out to other countries on the continent, but I really want to understand ingredients from like the seed to the plate. Like I really want to understand that a bit more. Focus on sourcing, eating locally, eating in season, and I think, you know, my brain is telling me, well, start in Africa, start in the motherland. So I can't really say where it's going, but that's at least where I'm starting for my next, you know, culinary projects.
Yeah. Okay, and so my final question, if you were to describe yourself as a dish.
Me. Okay.
How would you describe yourself? What dish would you be and why?
Ooh. Is it one of my dishes?
It can be.
Okay. I would say, that's a tough one.
I know.
How would I describe myself as a dish?
I mean, it can be yours, or it can be, you know, just anything that you feel like represents you.
Okay.
In terms of a dish. I know, I'm still thinking about my answer too. It's not necessarily like an easy question to answer, but it's just something I've been playing with.
I think I have my answer, and you're actually going to try it tonight.
Okay, good.
So I think I would describe myself as my collard green wrap.
Okay, yes, the collard green wrap.
But walk with me here. So
stay with me.
Stay with me.
Stay with me. I'm with you. I'm with you.
So collard greens, you know, so I'm Southern. I think that's the main idea, and I also have like West African roots, so we have that. You know, I'm pretty slick. You know, I'm a slick talker, so
you definitely slick.
I'm pretty slick. And then the best part is that there's like a sweet component, so I can be nice sometimes. And then there's like a nice spicy surprise on the inside.
Oh
so
my God! No, I love this answer.
That's me, yeah. I think that's me.
That is everything. Yeah. That's perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for chatting with me. I love it. The sweet, the spicy, the Southern.
Yeah,
that's everything. I'm excited for tonight, Chef.
Thank you.
And thank you for sitting with me. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.